December 11th, 1941. Wake Island, Pacific Ocean. 388 U.S. Marines and 68 U.S. Navy personnel defend remote Coral Atoll against Japanese invasion fleet. 2 light cruisers, 6 destroyers, 2 troop transports carrying 450 Special Naval Landing Force troops. At 0300 hours, Japanese warships begin shore bombardment. Major James Devereaux, 38 years old, commanding 1st Defense Battalion, holds fire, waiting until enemy ships close to 4,500 meters before ordering Battery L to engage. At 0615 hours, 2 5-inch coastal guns open fire. 11 salvos later, destroyer Hayate explodes, magazine detonated, sinking in 2 minutes with all 168 crew. 2nd destroyer Kisaragi takes direct hit, catches fire, explodes at 0700 hours. Another 157 Japanese sailors lost. By 0730 hours, entire invasion fleet withdraws in disorder. First Japanese naval defeat of Pacific War. But this victory lasts only 12 days. Japanese return December 23rd with 2,000 troops, 6 cruisers, 2 carriers launching 29 Zero fighters providing air superiority the Marines cannot contest. What makes Wake Island's defense extraordinary isn't the final capture, inevitable against overwhelming force, but the 15 days of resistance demonstrating that properly positioned defenders with limited resources can inflict disproportionate casualties on superior attackers. From December 8 first air attack through December 23 final surrender, 388 Marines, 68 Navy personnel, and approximately 70 armed civilian contractors hold 2,600-meter-long atoll against 27 air raids destroying all defensive positions, naval bombardments reducing fortifications to rubble, and 2 amphibious assaults. Final Marine casualties: 49 killed, 2 missing. Final Japanese casualties: 820 killed, including 325 drowned on sunk warships, estimated 333 wounded. The exchange ratio: 1 Marine casualty per 16 Japanese casualties, achieved through defensive preparation, fire discipline, and refusal to surrender despite hopeless tactical position. Post-war Japanese naval analysis admits Wake Island operation suffers higher casualties than anticipated, delays Central Pacific offensive schedule by 12 days, and forces reallocation of carrier air groups originally assigned elsewhere. Small garrisons can impose strategic costs through determined resistance. November 1941. Wake Island, remote Coral Atoll, 3,700 kilometers west of Hawaii, 2,000 kilometers east of Guam, represents forward outpost of American Pacific Defense. The atoll consists of 3 islands forming V-shape: Wake, Wilkes, and Peel, totaling 6.5 square kilometers. No natural harbors, no fresh water sources, maximum elevation 6 meters above sea level. Strategic value: airfield supporting trans-Pacific flights, potential advance base for submarine and patrol operations, observation post monitoring Japanese expansion. U.S. Pacific Command assigns 1st Defense Battalion, Fleet Marine Force to garrison Wake October 1941. Commander Major James Devereaux, 38 years old, career Marine officer with 15 years service, arrives with 388 Marines, 12 5-inch coastal defense guns, 24 3-inch anti-aircraft guns, 12.50 caliber machine guns, 30.30 caliber machine guns. Aviation component: Marine Fighting Squadron VMF-211 with 12 F-4F Wildcat fighters under Major Paul Putnam. 36 years old. November-December 1941. Civilian contractors from Morrison Knudsen Corporation, 1,146 workers, continue constructing airfield, defensive positions, and support facilities. Work remains incomplete when war begins. Only 6 of 12 coastal guns operational. Many anti-aircraft positions lack electrical fire control, communication trenches incomplete, no radar warning system, inadequate ammunition storage. But Devereaux recognizes defensive advantages. Coral reefs surrounding atoll prevent landing except at 3 narrow beach areas. Coastal guns command approaches. Dispersed positions reduce vulnerability to air attack. He positions coastal batteries strategically. Battery L, 2 5-inch guns, on Peacock Point covering southern approaches. Battery A, 2 5-inch guns, on Toki Point covering western approaches. Battery B, 2 5-inch guns, on Cuckoo Point covering northern approaches. Each battery maintains concealed positions with camouflage netting and coral rock revetments. Marines practice fire discipline. Hold fire until enemy within effective range. Concentrate fire on single targets. Preserve ammunition for decisive moments. December 7th. 1941. December 8th, Wake Island local time. Pearl Harbor attack occurs. 0755 hours. Hawaiian time. 1355 hours. Wake Island time. Commander Winfield Cunningham. 43 years old. Senior Naval Officer Wake Island, receives warning. 0650 hours. Wake time. 7 hours before Japanese attack. Marines go on full alert dispersing aircraft, manning defensive positions, preparing for imminent attack. But warning provides insufficient time for reinforcement or evacuation. Wake Island garrison faces reality. 450 defenders on exposed atoll, nearest American forces. 3,700 kilometers. Distant at Pearl Harbor where Pacific Fleet is crippled. No possibility of relief or reinforcement. Strategic situation. Japan controls Marshall Islands. 1,100 kilometers. South, Mariana Islands. 2,400 kilometers. West, Wake sits isolated surrounded by Japanese bases. Devereaux addresses officers. We hold what we have. Make the Japanese pay for every meter. Cunningham establishes command relationship. Devereaux commands defensive operations, Cunningham overall command, Putnam commands air operations. Chain of command clear. But resources desperately limited. What the Japanese don't know yet makes Wake Island's initial resistance even more shocking. Imperial Japanese Navy planning assumes Wake Island garrison consists of approximately 300 troops. With minimal defenses, easy target requiring limited forces for rapid capture. Intelligence reports fail to identify recent Marine reinforcement, underestimate defensive preparations, and miscalculate American willingness to resist. Japanese Admiral Sadamichi Kagioka. 54 years old, commanding Wake Island invasion force from light cruiser Yubari, receives orders. Capture Wake Island December 11th using 450 Special Naval Landing Force troops supported by cruiser and destroyer bombardment. Establish airfield for forward operations supporting Mariana Islands offensive. Estimated operation duration. 24 hours. Estimated casualties. Minimal. American garrison expected to surrender after demonstration of overwhelming force. This gross underestimation of American defensive capability and determination produces Japan's first significant tactical defeat of Pacific War, demonstrating critical intelligence failure. Wake Island garrison composition December 8, 1941. Reveals why defense proves more effective than Japanese anticipate. Marines, 388 from 1st Defense Battalion including artillerymen, anti-aircraft gunners, infantry, communication specialists. Navy, 68 personnel including Cunningham staff, corpsmen, communications. Aviation, 12 pilots and 49 aviation support personnel. Armed civilians, approximately 70 civilian contractors volunteering for combat duties. Total combat strength, approximately 525 capable of bearing arms. Defensive armament, 6 operational 5-inch coastal guns, 12 3-inch anti-aircraft guns, 18.50 caliber machine guns, 30.30 caliber machine guns, 12 F-4F Wildcat fighters initially, reduced to 4 operational by December 11 from air raids. Ammunition supplies, adequate for initial combat, but no resupply possible. Food and water, sufficient for 30 days, with rationing. Medical supplies, limited, 1 Navy doctor, 2 corpsmen. The garrison possesses firepower and defensive positions to inflict significant casualties, but lacks resources for sustained resistance against determined multi-wave assault. December 8, 1941. 1158 hours. Wake Island time. 36 Mitsubishi G3M bombers from 24th Air Flotilla based in Kwajalein attack Wake Island from 2,000 meters altitude. Marines spot incoming formation too late. No radar warning. Limited air patrol due to fuel constraints. Bombers target airfield and aviation facilities, dropping 250-kilogram bombs in precise pattern. VMF-2 11 fighters parked close together for maintenance. Present concentrated target. Explosions destroy 7 Wildcats on ground, damage 1 beyond repair, kill 23 aviation personnel, destroy aviation fuel storage, eliminate communications equipment. Major Putnam surveys damage. 8 of 12 fighters lost without firing shot, maintenance facilities destroyed, fuel critically limited. 4 operational Wildcats remain, insufficient for effective air defense. But Putnam orders continuous patrols in pairs to provide early warning and harass Japanese formations. First day establishes pattern. Japanese maintain air superiority through numerical advantage. Marines contest airspace with diminishing fighter strength while conserving coastal and anti-aircraft ammunition for surface threats. December 9th to 10th. 1941. Japanese bombing intensifies. 27 bombers December 9th, 33 bombers December 10th, systematically targeting defensive positions, supply dumps, and remaining aircraft. Marines disperse into camouflaged positions, making target identification difficult. Anti-aircraft batteries maintain fire discipline, shooting only when bombers approach below 1,500 meters, where 3-inch guns achieve effectiveness. December 10th. VMF-2 11 pilots Captain Henry Elrod and Captain Frank Tharon intercept bomber formation. Both pilots score probable kills, first Japanese aircraft losses at Wake. But attrition continues. December 10th raid damages 1 additional Wildcat, reducing operational strength to 3 fighters. Ground crews cannibalize destroyed aircraft for spare parts, maintaining 2 to 3 operational fighters through heroic maintenance efforts. Japanese lose 2 confirmed bombers to fighters, 1 probable to anti-aircraft fire, demonstrating Americans contest airspace despite overwhelming odds. At this exact moment, 1,100 kilometers south, Admiral Kajioka's invasion fleet departs Kwajalein December 9th for Wake Island. Force composition: light cruisers Yubari, flagship, and Tenryu, destroyers Yayoi, Mutsuki, Kisaragi, Hei-8, Oit, Asanagi, transports Kongo Maru and Kinryu Maru carrying 450 Special Naval Landing Force troops. Supporting air cover: 27 bombers preparing pre-invasion bombardment December 11th. Kajioka's plan: approach Wake Island during darkness December 11th. Conduct shore bombardment 0300-0500 hours. Destroying coastal defenses, land assault troops. 0600 hours. At 3 beaches simultaneously overwhelming dispersed defenders. Secure island by 1200 hours. December 11th. Intelligence assessment. Minimal resistance expected. American garrison demoralized from bombing, defensive positions destroyed, coastal guns suppressed by superior naval gunfire. Kajioka signals combined fleet headquarters. Anticipate successful landing Operation Wake Island December 11th. Estimated completion: 24 hours. This confidence proves catastrophically premature. December 10th to 11th. 1941. Devereux prepares defensive response to anticipated invasion based on observed Japanese pattern. Extensive air bombardment preceding surface assault. He orders coastal gun batteries to maintain absolute camouflage and fire discipline. No premature engagement revealing positions. Battery commanders receive instructions. Hold fire until enemy warships close within 4,000 meters, ensuring maximum accuracy. Concentrate fire on capital ships first. Shift to transports if landing attempt develops. Preserve ammunition for sustained engagement. Anti-aircraft batteries positioned to provide overlapping coverage of potential landing beaches. Infantry platoons deployed covering beach approaches with machine gun positions sighted for enfilade fire. Devereux's calculation: reveal defensive positions only when Japanese commit to assault, achieve maximum surprise through apparent passivity, inflict maximum casualties during vulnerable landing phase. Marines spend night December 10th to 11th in positions watching horizon, knowing Japanese fleet approaches, but unable to determine timing or direction. December 11th. 1941. 0300 hours. Japanese warships visible on horizon. Navigation lights showing as fleet approaches from south. Kajioka orders shore bombardment beginning. 0305 hours. Flagship Yubari and cruiser Tenryu firing 140mm guns. Destroyers firing 127mm guns targeting suspected defensive positions. Shells impact across Wake Island for 90 minutes. Explosions destroying buildings, cratering runways, setting fuel dumps ablaze. But coastal gun batteries remain silent. Camouflaged positions survive bombardment intact. At 0500 hours. Kajioka signals destroyers to close and complete destruction of coastal defenses before landing. Destroyers Hay-8 and Oid approach Peacock point to 5,000 meters. Point-blank range for warships engaging shore batteries. Devereux watches from command post as enemy ships close. At 0610 hours. With destroyers 4,500 meters distant, he orders Battery L, commence firing. What happens in the next 80 minutes transforms Japanese expectations of easy victory into shocking defeat. 0615 hours. Battery L, two 5-inch guns commanded by Lieutenant Clarence Barninger, opens fire on destroyer Hay-8. First salvo misses short. Second salvo straddles target. Third salvo strikes amidships. 2 direct hits. Hay-8 slows trailing smoke. Fourth salvo strikes forward magazine. Massive explosion. Ship's bow disintegrates. Hull breaks. Stern rises vertical. Within 2 minutes Hay-8 sinks completely. First Japanese warship lost in Pacific War. All 168 crew killed. Battery L shifts fire to destroyer Oit. 3 hits causing fires and steering damage. Oit turns away making smoke. Meanwhile Battery A on Wilkes Island engages light cruiser Tenryu scoring 2 hits causing minor damage. Flagship Yubari receives 1 hit damaging radio equipment. Kajioka orders general withdrawal. Invasion force retreats south beyond gun range. But disaster continues. Destroyer Kisaragi stopped assisting damaged Oit presents stationary target. At 0700 hours. Captain Elrod in F-4F Wildcat attacks Kisaragi with 100-pound bombs. Direct hit on depth charges stored on deck triggers catastrophic explosion. Kisaragi sinks in minutes. 157 crew lost. By 0730 hours. Japanese invasion fleet withdraws in disorder. 2 destroyers sunk, 1 light cruiser damaged, 1 destroyer damaged, 325 sailors dead, 0 troops landed. American casualties: 1 Marine wounded. Marines watch enemy fleet disappear over horizon. Unprecedented defensive victory. December 11th to 22nd. 1941. Japanese High Command reacts to Wake Island defeat with shock and embarrassment. First naval setback of Pacific War requires explanation and redemption. Combined Fleet Commander Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto personally orders Wake Island recapture with overwhelming force. Carriers Soryu and Hiryu detached from returning Pearl Harbor strike force. For heavy cruisers assigned, 2,000 Special Naval Landing Force troops allocated, 29 Zero fighters to provide air superiority. But assembling this force requires 12 days, allowing Marines to continue resistance. During interim, Japanese conduct intensive air campaign, December 12th to 22nd, 27 separate bombing raids, destroying remaining defensive positions, eliminating last operational aircraft December 22nd, reducing fortifications to rubble. American casualties mount, 3 to 4 Marines killed daily from bombing, defensive positions progressively destroyed, ammunition depleted to critical levels, no relief possible. What Marines don't know during these final desperate days makes their continued resistance even more tragic. Relief expedition, Task Force 14 with carrier Saratoga, 3 cruisers, 9 destroyers, convoy carrying 200 Marine reinforcements, departs Pearl Harbor December 16th for Wake Island. Admiral Frank Jack Fletcher. 56 years old, commanding relief force proceeds cautiously, refueling delays, submarine scares, excessive caution, averaging 8-knot speed. By December 22nd, Task Force 14 is still 600 kilometers from Wake Island. Vice Admiral William Pye. 57 years old, temporary Pacific Fleet commander after Admiral Kimmel's removal, orders Fletcher to abort mission December 22nd, refuses to risk carrier against superior Japanese forces for garrison already considered lost. Marines on Wake Island fight believing relief is coming. Unaware Navy abandons them. 24 hours before Japanese final assault. This abandonment remains controversial. Post-war analysis suggests aggressive relief attempt could have reached Wake Island December 21st to 22nd, potentially disrupting Japanese landing. But Pye prioritizes preserving remaining Pacific Fleet carriers over supporting isolated garrison. December 22nd to 23rd. 1941. Japanese final assault force approaches Wake Island. Carriers Soryu and Hiryu launched 29 Zero fighters establishing air superiority. Cruisers Tone, Chikuma, Kinagasa, Aoba conduct shore bombardment. 2,000 Special Naval Landing Force troops aboard 12 transports prepare landing. December 23rd. 0145 hours. First wave. 1,000 troops. Lands on southern beaches. Marines contest landing with remaining operational weapons, machine guns, rifles, improvised explosives. But Japanese numerical superiority and air support prove overwhelming. By 0300 hours. Japanese control southern beach establishing beachhead. Second wave lands. 0400 hours. Another 1,000 troops. Pushing inland. Devereaux fights from command post coordinating diminishing defensive forces. By 0500 hours. Japanese control half of Wake Island. Cunningham evaluates situation. Fewer than 100 Marines still combat effective. Ammunition nearly exhausted. Japanese reinforcements arriving continuously. No possibility of victory or relief. At 0730 hours. December 23rd, Cunningham orders surrender, after 15 days. Resistance. Defensive capabilities exhausted. The final hours December 23rd demonstrate both futility of continued resistance and extraordinary cost Japanese paid for victory. By 0600 hours. Japanese forces controlled 2/3 of Wake Island, but sustained casualties significantly exceeding expectations. 325 sailors killed December 11th on sunken destroyers. Estimated 340 Special Naval Landing Force troops killed or wounded December 23rd landing, including 153 confirmed dead, 2 transport vessels damaged, 7 landing craft destroyed. Total Japanese casualties Wake Island operation, approximately 820 killed, 333 wounded. Exchange ratio against 49 American dead proves embarrassing for operation planners who predicted minimal resistance. The 15-day defense delayed Japanese offensive schedule, forced reallocation of carrier task forces originally assigned elsewhere, and demonstrated American forces would resist fiercely contradicting Japanese propaganda about Western forces lacking warrior spirit. But tactical success cannot overcome strategic reality. Wake Island garrison isolated. 3,700 kilometers. From support with no relief possible faces inevitable defeat against unlimited enemy reinforcements. 3 factors now converge to transform heroic defense into inevitable capitulation: ammunition exhaustion, overwhelming Japanese numerical superiority, and Navy's abandonment of relief mission. First factor: ammunition. December 23rd morning, Battery L ammunition. 12 rounds remaining of original 300. Anti-aircraft ammunition. Depleted. Small arms ammunition. Averaging 30 rounds per Marine of original 250 rounds. Even heroic fire discipline cannot extend defensive capability beyond hours. Second factor: numerical disparity. 2,000 fresh Japanese troops with tank support, artillery, air superiority versus fewer than 100 combat-effective Marines exhausted from 15 days.
Continuous combat, no reinforcement, no resupply.
Military mathematics make continued resistance suicidal without achieving meaningful purpose. Third factor: relief abandonment. Had Task Force 14 continued mission, arriving December 22nd to 23rd could have disrupted Japanese landing or evacuated garrison. But PI's withdrawal order December 22nd ensures Marines fight final battle without hope of rescue. And then the human cost of continued resistance becomes clear through final casualty assessments. Between 0600-0730 hours, December 23rd, final 90 minutes combat, Marines sustain 11 additional killed, 8 wounded, 20% of remaining combat strength, while inflicting estimated 30 Japanese casualties. Cunningham faces terrible calculation. Each additional hour of resistance kills more Marines without changing ultimate outcome. Japanese demonstrate they will accept casualties necessary for victory. Continued fighting ensures complete garrison annihilation. Military honor demands resistance. Command responsibility demands limiting unnecessary casualties once defeat becomes inevitable. At 0715 hours, Cunningham orders white flags displayed. Some Marine positions don't receive order immediately. Continue fighting until 0800 hours, when Japanese ceasefire finally establishes control. Final American casualties: 49 Marines killed, 2 Marines missing, 3 Navy killed, 70 civilians killed from bombing. Japanese casualties: 820 killed, 333 wounded. The exchange ratio: 1 American death for 16 Japanese casualties, respectable for defenders, but ultimately strategically meaningless. The immediate tactical consequence of Wake Island's fall demonstrates how isolated garrisons cannot survive without relief regardless of defensive skill. Japanese secure Wake Island by 1,200 hours. December 23rd, execute 98 civilian contractors. October 1943, claiming they possessed military intelligence, hold remaining prisoners until war's end. But strategic impact proved significant. 15-day defense delayed Japanese Central Pacific offensive schedule by 12 days. Combined fleet operations targeting Port Moresby, Rabaul, and South Pacific advance postponed waiting for Wake Island forces. Carrier task forces Soryu and Hiryu diverted from planned operations against Johnston and Palmyra Islands to support Wake Island recapture, affecting Japanese offensive flexibility. Post-war Japanese naval analysis admits Wake Island operation required unexpectedly heavy commitment. Resistance at Wake Island exceeded intelligence estimates. Casualties sustained in initial landing attempt December 11th represented unacceptable losses. Subsequent reinforcement with carrier support delayed operations scheduled elsewhere. American defensive determination demonstrated more careful planning required for future amphibious operations. December 23, 1941-1945. 388 Marines, 68 Navy personnel, approximately 1,100 civilians captured become prisoners of war, transported to camps in China and Japan. Conditions: brutal. Treatment: harsh. Survival rate: 94 Marines die in captivity from disease, malnutrition, forced labor. Major Devereaux survives imprisonment, repatriated September 1945. After 45 months captivity. Commander Cunningham survives, returns to U.S. Navy December 1945. Major Putnam survives, awarded Navy Cross for VMF 211's defense. Captain Elrod, credited with sinking Kisaragi December 11th, killed during final defense December 23rd, posthumously awarded Medal of Honor. The prisoner's ordeal lasts 44 months, enduring hardship extending far beyond the 15 days of actual combat. But their resistance December 8th to 23rd, 1941, provides crucial propaganda victory for America reeling from Pearl Harbor disaster, demonstrating U.S. forces can fight effectively against Japanese despite overwhelming odds. The mathematics proving Wake Island defense inflicted disproportionate casualties emerges from detailed casualty analysis. American forces engaged: 388 Marines, 68 Navy, approximately 70 armed civilians equals 526 combatants. American combat casualties: 49 Marines killed, 2 missing, 3 Navy killed, equals 54 combat deaths. Casualty rate: 10%. Japanese forces engaged: 450 Special Naval Landing Force troops initial attempt. 2,000 troops. Final assault: 325 sailors on sunken warships equals approximately 2,775 personnel directly engaged. Japanese casualties: 820 killed, 333 wounded, equals 1,153 total casualties. Casualty rate: 42%. Exchange ratio: 1 American casualty for every 21 Japanese casualties, or 1 American death for every 16 Japanese deaths. Defense duration: 15 days.
Continue combat.
These statistics demonstrate properly prepared defensive positions manned by disciplined troops achieve casualty exchange ratios heavily favoring defenders, even when ultimately defeated by overwhelming force. The defense's strategic value: delaying Japanese offensive. 12 days. Forcing resource reallocation, providing propaganda victory demonstrating American fighting spirit. The immediate strategic consequence of Wake Island defense extends beyond tactical defeat to morale impact justifying continued Pacific resistance. American public December 1941. Reels from Pearl Harbor disaster, Pacific Fleet crippled, Philippines under attack, Guam captured, Hong Kong besieged, needing demonstration that U.S. forces can resist Japanese aggression effectively. Wake Island defense provides exactly that narrative. Outnumbered Marines inflict disproportionate casualties, sink 2 warships, delay Japanese schedule, fight 4, 15 days. Before surrendering only when ammunition exhausted. Press coverage emphasizes heroic resistance. Wake Island Marines sink 2 Japanese destroyers. Outnumbered defenders hold Pacific outpost. 15 days. American forces demonstrate fighting spirit against superior numbers. The propaganda value proves immense, transforming military defeat into moral victory, demonstrating American determination to resist Japanese expansion regardless of odds. Post-war historians debate whether Wake Island defense's tactical significance justified casualties. But morale impact remains undeniable. If U.S. Pacific Command had reinforced Wake Island November 1941, or executed relief mission aggressively December 1941, military analysts calculate alternative scenarios. Scenario 1. Reinforcement November 1941. With additional battalion, radar equipment, ammunition stockpiles, 24 additional fighters. Result: Japanese December 11th assault still defeated. Subsequent attacks face stronger resistance. Garrison holds 30-45 days, potentially forcing Japanese to bypass Wake Island or commit even larger forces. Strategic impact: minimal. Isolated garrison eventually overwhelmed, but delays Japanese schedule further. Scenario 2. Task Force 14 proceeds aggressively reaching Wake Island December 21st to 22nd. Result: Japanese landing disrupted by carrier airstrikes and surface bombardment, possible garrison evacuation or reinforcement. Japanese suffer additional casualties, but likely capture island after task force withdraws. Risk: potential carrier loss from Japanese air attack. Historical consensus: Pai's decision to abort relief mission was strategically sound. Preserving carrier for future operations outweighed saving isolated garrison. But morally devastating for Marines fighting believing relief was coming. The fate of Wake Island garrison symbolizes larger pattern of Pacific War early phase. Isolated American garrisons facing overwhelming Japanese forces fighting delaying actions without possibility of victory. Philippines garrison, 78,000 troops, holds 5 months before surrendering May 1942. Guam garrison 400 Marines captured after 2 days. December 1941. Hong Kong garrison 12,000 British and Canadian troops surrenders December 1941. After 17 days. Wake Island 526 defenders holding 15 days. Against 2,775 attackers, achieving 21-to-1 casualty exchange ratio represents perhaps most successful of these doomed defenses, demonstrating that training, defensive preparation, and determined leadership maximize defensive effectiveness even in hopeless strategic situations. Post-war Marine Corps analysis concludes, Wake Island defense validated pre-war defensive tactics, coastal gun batteries properly sighted and camouflaged, fire discipline waiting for decisive engagement range, dispersed positions reducing bombing effectiveness. The defense failed only when ammunition exhausted, suggesting adequate supply stockpiles would enable extended resistance. Remember December 11th, 1941. When 388 Marines and 68 Navy personnel defended Wake Island against Japanese invasion fleet of 2 cruisers, 6 destroyers, 2 transports carrying 450 troops. Remember Battery L Commander Lieutenant Barninger holding fire until destroyers closed to 4,500 meters, then opening engagement, sinking destroyer Hay-8 with 11 salvos, 168 Japanese sailors killed. Remember Captain Elrod bombing destroyer Kisaragi, triggering catastrophic explosion, 157 additional Japanese casualties, second warship sunk. Remember Japanese invasion fleet withdrawing in disorder after 2 destroyers sunk, 325 sailors dead, 0 troops landed, first Japanese naval defeat of Pacific War. Remember Japanese returning December 23rd with overwhelming force, 2 carriers, for cruisers. 2,000 troops. Forcing surrender after 15 days. When ammunition exhausted. Remember final casualty ratio, 54 American combat deaths, 820 Japanese killed, 1 American casualty for every 16 Japanese casualties. This is how 526 American defenders held Wake Island for 15 days, inflicting disproportionate casualties, demonstrating that determined resistance in defensive positions achieves tactical success even when strategic defeat proves inevitable. The statistics quantify how small garrisons can impose significant costs on superior attackers through defensive preparation and determination. Defense duration, December 8th to 23rd. 1941. 15 days.
Continue au combat.
Defender strength, 388 Marines, 68 Navy, 70 armed civilians equals 526 combatants. Attacker strength, 450 troops. First assault, 2,000 troops. Second assault, supporting warships and aviation. American casualties, 49 Marines killed, 2 missing, 3 Navy killed, 70 civilians killed equals 124 total deaths including non-combatants. Japanese casualties, 820 killed, including 325 sailors on sunk destroyers. 333 wounded, equals 1,153 casualties. Japanese warship losses, 2 destroyers sunk, 1 cruiser damaged, 1 destroyer damaged, 2 transports damaged, 7 landing craft destroyed. Exchange ratio, 21. 1 casualties. Favoring defenders, 16. 1 deaths. Favoring defenders. Strategic impact, Japanese Central Pacific offensive delayed. 12 days. Carrier task forces reallocated. American morale bolstered. American historian Samuel Eliot Morrison writes, Wake Island defense demonstrated that American forces properly led and positioned could inflict severe casualties on Japanese forces. The garrison's resistance provided crucial morale boost for nation reeling from Pearl Harbor. Marine Corps historian writes, Wake Island validates that small units in defensive positions with adequate firepower achieve casualty exchange ratios heavily favoring defenders against superior numbers. Today, military academies worldwide study Wake Island defense as classic example of maximizing defensive advantages against superior force. At U.S. Marine Corps University, students analyze how Devereaux's defensive preparation, camouflaged positions, fire discipline, concentrated firepower at decisive range, achieved December 11th victory against initial invasion. At U.S. Naval War College, Wake Island demonstrates risk of underestimating defender determination and capability. Japanese intelligence failure led to inadequate initial assault force. Modern amphibious assault doctrine incorporates Wake Island lessons. Conduct thorough reconnaissance identifying actual defensive capabilities. Allocate overwhelming force for initial assault rather than reinforcing after repulse. Maintain air superiority before attempting landing. The defense of Wake Island, as operation officially named, stands as testament that determined defenders with limited resources can impose significant costs on attackers through skillful use of terrain, fire discipline, and refusal to surrender until resistance becomes impossible. Major Devereaux's final message before Japanese cut communications December 23rd, enemy on island. Issue in doubt. That doubt, maintained for 15 days, against overwhelming force, represents Wake Island's enduring legacy demonstrating courage and tactical skill can achieve local tactical success even when strategic situation ensures eventual defeat.